Begin for the final of Disney Lorcana Challenge in Bologna. It all comes down to this.
I'm ready, Joe, and I know you are. The players have already had their deck checks. They have had a look through their opponent's lists, so they know what the other person is playing. Also, these guys are kind of familiar with each other. I think Pierre said that his family lived quite close to Elie, so they have met in the past. So nice little story there that they have crossed paths in the past, and now they find themselves in the final of Bologna.
Now, Pierre did get 48 points in Swiss, whereas Elie 47. So Pierre, due to having that slightly superior Swiss record, is the highest seed and therefore is going to be able to go first in game number 1. Now, while they might have the disadvantage in terms of matchup on paper, that is definitely going to swing things back into Pierre's favor with the fact that they're going to be able to go first in game 1. So I think we've got a really exciting final here. Let us know who you think is going to be winning. This is the final, and of course so much to play for. Not only the pride, but also a whole binder filled with enchanted and foil cards from Ursula's return.
What an incredible prize to go along with everything they've already won. As you say, here we go. Don't go anywhere. This is the grand final. Stick around. You don't want to miss it. And already I see that Gaston, arrogant hunter, in the hand of Elie. 2 cost, 4-2, reckless.
Yeah, it's going to be 3 cards mulligan for Elie, it seems like. Maybe 4, in fact. Of course, going to be looking for some ramp options, maybe a Fishbone Quill. Pierre going to definitely be aware of the threat of Fishbone Quill. We saw in the semi-final them utilizing bare necessities to discard the Fishbone Quill from their opponent and therefore shutting down the ramp options. Sapphire, of course, looking to get lots of ink early in the game. And it's interesting that both players, no overlap in terms of ink color. Ruby and Sapphire for Elie, and then Pierre on Amber and Steel. So a real big variety of inks in this game as the fist bump comes through, and we now are ready. Pierre with the highest seed will be able to go first. There's a Robin Hood which can be played on turn 1, and there's a potential Robin Hood shift which could come through on turn number 3.
Yeah, no, this is looking like a pretty nice opening hand. We've got that 1 drop. We've got the Ursula 2 drop if we desire it on turn 2. The Aerial Spectacular Singer. There's the Grab Your Swords as well. This looks pretty good. I don't know how useful that Grab Your Swords is going to be early, but the rest of the hand looks pretty darn good. And Elie with a Popsicle in hand. I'm also spying that Queen, a Tamatoa at the back there.
They do also have that Maurice's Workshop, which is an uninkable card, so it's not going to be able to go into the inkwell as the Popsicle comes through, card drawn. But Elie definitely could consider going for that on turn 3. Might just want to try and go for the Queen on turn 3 though. Now Pierre does have ways of removing the Queen while it's ready before it can exert. Something like a And Then Along Came Zeus, which could be sung by a character with Singer 4. And there is a character with Singer 4 in the hand of Pierre that goes by the name of Ursula Vanessa, and there she is, Singer 4. So And Then Along Came Zeus could be an option. Also Strength of a Raging Fire, if there's enough characters down on the board for Pierre, could remove the Queen. It's going to be the Scuttle, going to be looking at 4 cards off the top, and an item can go into the hand, and look at that, there's 2 to choose from. Ice Block or Fishbone Quill. Ice Block uninkable. It is going to be the Fishbone Quill, and Pierre gets to see that working in a similar way to Aerial. Yeah,
that's a great move. And also, I want to draw some attention to the Teeth and Ambitions in Elie's hand, which can be sung by this Scuttle and could be able to put 2 damage on this Robin Hood. Of course, it may well be too late. Pierre going into his turn 3 is going to ink. He's going to ink that Champion of Sherwood.
Yeah, really interesting. I was expecting that to be shifted in this.
We have another. We have another.
Of course you ink the normal and you play the Enchanted. I wouldn't have it any other way. Imagine if Pierre inks the Enchanted to play the non-Enchanted Baker. There would have been riots.
Yeah, then be the rules. We want to see the Enchanted. And this is potentially the first example of going first benefiting Pierre. Because if it had been the other way around, then Elie would have potentially been able to play Teeth and Ambitions to remove this Robin Hood before it shifted. So, yeah, already we're seeing the difference made by going first. I think we're inking that Teeth and Ambitions. No, it's still in hand.
Yeah, Teeth and Ambitions and Brawl, some removal options, and Pierre also just taking that opportunity in the previous turn to quest as much as possible. Another Robin Hood into the Inkwell, and it looks like Lawrence is going to come down that 0-4 stat line, but remember, when there's no damage counters on Lawrence, it's getting +4 strength. So it's a 4 strength, 4 willpower character, which quests for 2 right now. More questing from Pierre, who is making an amazing start, up to 7 lore already. Elie's going to be really looking to clear this board as quickly as possible, which that Fishbone Quill can certainly help them do. There's a Be Prepared in their hand.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, but it is kind of the story of Sapphire over the course of the weekend. Really slow starts, their opponent racing away with that early lore, but Sapphire's potential to catch up is incredible with the combination of Lucky Dime and Tamatoa. That Maui's going to come down, hero of all, and take out that Robin Hood. That's going to allow Pierre to draw a card, because when Robin Hood is banished, that's what you get to do. You get to draw. So really versatile cards. We're going to see the Brawl hitting the Inkwell, and we pass back to Pierre, who does still have that Singer 4 available to him.
Yeah, Scuttle quested as well here. Now, you might be wondering, why is there only 1 damage counter on Maui when it challenged the Robin Hood? There's no ice blocks around, but it was actually the Porpsicle which was used to heal Maui by 2, and there's now the Porpsicle in the discard, but only 1 damage counter on Maui. Now, Ursula Vanessa is going to sing Bare Necessities, and the Be Prepared is available in the hand for Elie. There is the Workshop, there is the Brawl, they're all actions, or non-character cards rather, they're all options. Surely Be Prepared is going to be chosen by Pierre here.
Yeah, it seems like it's probably the safest choice. The Brawl there could remove the Ursula Vanessa, and of course this Maurice's Workshop could come down and start generating value for Elie, but he doesn't have any other items, so it might be a while before he could get that advantage, so he does choose the Be Prepared.
Yep, there is Lawrence, which is going to consider challenging Maui. It's actually going to challenge the Scuttle instead, and then Rapunzel healing Lawrence back up to that 4-4 stat line, and a card drawn for Pierre. Now, Elie is at 7 ink, which is why that Bare Necessities came through from Pierre at this moment to discard it. Gaston into the Inkwell, Brawl onto Rapunzel, and 3 ink spare, which is just enough for the Workshop. Now, Maui can challenge either Vanessa or the Lawrence, but if it challenged Lawrence, the Maui would be removed. So Vanessa is the card chosen. No cards in hand right now for Elie, but an item off the top with that Maurice's Workshop would be tremendous, and there's a lot of items in this deck, Baker.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The likes of Fishbone Quill, Porpsicles, there's a Maui's Fish Hook in there as well. Lots of very unique items that we don't see all the time, and yeah, as you say, any item off the top, as long as he's got enough, 1 more ink than the cost of that item, then that Maurice's Workshop will be able to draw a card. And hey, how about Maurice's Workshop into Maurice's Workshop, and let's really start to flood our hand.
Let's see what it is, Baker. It's a Let It Go. It's a lovely, wonderful, not set championships, a
DLC.
DLC, there we go. Promo card, which is so great to see. It removes the card from the board into the Inkwell, but it's not a card draw tool. Cinderella, the only character standing right now. Perdita has just been drawn by Pierre, and that could be a game changer. Rapunzel into the Inkwell, Perdita down onto the board, and Ursula Vanessa, Robin Hood are options to be putting onto the board. When Perdita enters play, a 2-cost character or less can be played, and whenever it quests, Pierre is in a really good position. Big moment off the top. It's a Scuttle.
Oh, that's a pretty good one.
Scuttle moment.
Item.
There's 3 to pick from. So the Fish Hook, the Fishbone Quill, or the Dime. Going to be the Fish Hook.
Yeah, makes sense to potentially turn our characters evasive and keep them safe, because Elie doesn't have a whole lot going on, but this Workshop could lead to a lot of card draw in a row. We've got 3 items on the board at the moment.
Maurice's Workshop was also triggered there, so another card for Elie. There's 1 card in hand for them right now. I think it might have been Tamatoa, Baker.
Oh, that's a pretty good piece. I think we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it 6 ink we're at the moment? So, or maybe 7. So we're nearly there. And that Tamatoa, of course, can recycle items, let us play them, and keep drawing off of Maurice's Workshop. So it's not over.
Triple quest for 4. Perdita is going to trigger her ability again, and Robin Hood comes into play. This Perdita is putting in big work for Pierre. Now, at this moment in time, they have a few options in hand. I think there's a Grab Your Swords, a Rapunzel. Do you play further into a potential Be Prepared, or can you risk just holding on to this Rapunzel and then if a Be Prepared comes through, then you play Rapunzel. It's a big decision for Pierre here, and decides to play nothing at all, which I really like. They're only 6 lore away.
Yeah, they're closing in on game already, and yeah, you saw the power of that Perdita on play and on quest, just playing another character from of 2 cost or less from the discard, just +1ing every turn. Down comes the so shiny Tamatoa. We do have enough ink. He's going to return the Porpsicle to the hand, but I don't think there's enough ink to play it immediately.
There is not.
No, and even if he had 1, he might not have done it, just because obviously you want to trigger the Maurice's Workshop off of that, so he'd preferably like 2 ink.
Yep. Pierre now questing again, surely, with all the characters available. A Robin Hood shift here would have given them an extra lore. They are 6 away, currently questing for 5. So a Robin Hood shift would have won Pierre the game on the spot, Baker, but it's not an option.
Yep, he did.
Cinderella Stout-Hearted as well would have been a game-winning draw there.
Yeah, for sure. We saw that Stout-Hearted closing out games and when we watched Pierre's last match. But yeah, bearing in mind, Pierre did ink a Robin Hood Champion of Sherwood right at the beginning. But them's the breaks. You've got to play the hand you've got. You don't know what situation you're going to be in 3-4 turns from now. But yeah, you got to assume that we're going to be questing heavy here and then just be 1 away.
Now, we had Amber Steel down as a good matchup for Ruby Sapphire, but based off game 1, Pierre has got other ideas.
I don't think anyone told Pierre that that's the case.
Yeah.
Of course, this Perdita on quest could potentially grab another 2 cost or less character. I'm not sure if there are any left. Yeah, he took the Robin Hoods and the Vanessa, so won't be able to take anything else just yet. Pierre knows he's within grasp of that game 1 victory.
Yeah, and of course, untimed rounds here, so definitely worth them taking their time. They go for the Grab Your Swords, which is going to deal 2 damage to both Scuttle and Tamatoa. And then I think we're just going to see the Cinderella challenge the Scuttle and then questing with everything else, which gets them up to 18 and within touching distance. Again, holding on to that Rapunzel, Baker, just in case Elie finds that Be Prepared. They've then got a character to play down on the board, which can quest for 2. In comes the Porpsicle.
Be Prepared off the top of it. You see the look on Elie's face. That Porpsicle immediately finding it. Yes, we're going to exert the Maurice's Workshop to draw another card, find a Gaston Arrogant Hunter. That's going to be inked. We're playing another Porpsicle. Does he have enough ink to trigger the Maurice's Workshop?
And it's sung by Tamatoa as well. So this costs no ink at all to play Be Prepared. And a Scuttle comes through, and the items are now being developed, and there's many to choose from here. 3 items and the Queen off of the Scuttle. Of course, an item can be added to hand. It's going to be the Vitalosphere. But this decision from Pierre to hold on to that Rapunzel is looking really good right now. Pierre's going to be hoping to find something like a Mr. Smee. Rapunzel and Smee onto the board this turn could be really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Try and force maybe another Be Prepared from the opponent. Just keep asking the questions, make them have the answers. But yeah, this Queen hasn't put in any work yet, but I believe there is still time. But Pierre is within touching distance of 20 lore, is sitting at 18. Elie has a lot of catching up to do. Can he snipe it away from Pierre?
Now, Pierre has some interesting options here. They can go for Rapunzel and Vanessa, but they could just go for Robin Hood and Vanessa instead. Now, what Pierre's saying here to Elie is you have to remove one of my characters at least, whereas if they played just the Rapunzel, then you would still have to remove just one character but Rapunzel. So if Elie can remove one of the characters, Pierre's still going to have that Rapunzel to fall back on later on. The Ice Block comes through and is exerted. No, changing at the mind from Elie. Ice Block is going to come down.
Yeah, worth saying as well, Pierre knows...
Queen.
Oh, it's off the Queen. There you go. Pierre knows that Daring Visitor Sisu is in Elie's deck, so maybe that was part of the motivation behind not playing the Rapunzel, who would be banished by that.
Wow, look at this card draw tool from the Maurice's Workshop. It's so good, Baker.
You heard it from Elie, the best draw engine in the game, and he's showing us how good it can be. Down comes that Sisu, removing the Robin Hood, who has lost 1 strength from the Ice Block. Elie has really turned the board state around. He's got a lot of catching up to do still, but could he do it?
Well, this Sisu would have removed Rapunzel, so I think Pierre made the right decision to hold on to that Rapunzel.
Sure.
And it is a Smee that's been drawn, so Pierre could go Smee, Rapunzel this turn, and risk another board wipe. With all those ice blocks, there's also just the simple potential of a giant legendary Sisu coming through to clear as well.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. This this ice block could lower the strength by 1. Just trying to get a look on that.
6 ink available.
Yep, so it could lower Smee's strength by 1, take it down to a 2-drop. That would be enough for the Floodborn Sisu. This has got to be an intense decision. Do you extend here? Because if you do extend into something like a Be Prepared, although that wouldn't necessarily be the best move from Elie, but if he's going to lose the game, he'd have no choice.
Decides not to go for it, and with the amount of card draw potential off a simple item, and there it is, it's the Porpsicle. Now, there is a Brawl available in Elie's hand as well, which usually can't remove the Smee, but with that ice block, the Brawl is going to be able to remove Smee.
Look at the work this queen is putting in already. It has cheated 2 items onto the board. This has just completely turned around. Elie was topping. He had barely anything, and look at the advantage he has generated courtesy of this Maurice's Workshop. Of course, that Be Prepared off the top was really good, but again, he's drawn quite a lot, and his deck's built consistently. There are 4 copies. You can't hold it against him.
Yeah, and this is where those Sleepy's flutes can be so good in this matchup, because you reach a state where Ruby Sapphire just takes over and they can potentially remove every character card you play. Now, considering Elie to put that Maurice's Workshop into the Inkwell, but maybe deciding to hold on to it and use it. Imagine a double Maurice's Workshop on the board. That would be even more card draw potential.
Yeah, and one Maurice's Workshop triggers the other Maurice's Workshop. I can certainly see why it's put in work.
And it's going to remove the Smee as well due to the ice block. Big questing power as well. Suddenly Elie's at 7.
He is at 7. He has 3, 4, 5 lore on the board. Pierre drawing into a Pooh Pirate Captain.
Rapunzel and Piglet, both cards need to be removed, Baker, for Elie to stay in this game.
There is I think that's a Madame Medusa in Elie's hand, I do believe. No, it's a Brawl. Okay, well that still helps us deal with one of the characters. We do have that Be Prepared, so if there is no other answer, then we will see the Be Prepared just to stop Pierre winning the game. But can he do it any other way? We see the Maurice's Workshop coming down. He's going to draw a card.
Ambitions can deal with the Piglet. The Brawl can deal with Rapunzel.
Oh, this is just what Elie wanted to see. He's going to be able to do a complete board wipe of Pierre's side and then just keep asking the questions. And Pierre now has got to be feeling the sweat.
The Queen is going to exert again, looking for another item, and yet again it finds one every single time. The consistency of Elie's deck is absolutely tremendous. Maurice's Workshop enters the board exerted, which doesn't matter. You never even need this item readied.
This is incredible. Pierre with such a big head start, but Elie has just completely turned it around, and now he has lore on the board and could potentially be on a 2-3 turn clock.
Maurice's Workshop. If I was playing on this board, Baker, I would need about 7 tables. It is tremendous at how organized Elie is keeping this table.
11. I'm going to count one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 items in play. Goodness
Elie up
me.
To 10. Elie is 10 lore away. It's an Ursula Vanessa, which quests for 1. Well, guess what? Pierre only needs 1 lore. So Elie has to answer Ursula Vanessa. Ursula Vanessa is the final boss here for Elie. There is a Be Prepared, but is there going to be a more efficient way for Elie to deal with it?
I'd love to know how much ink Elie has to see whether it's worth the Flavisham. Because obviously if you miss, you need to play Be Prepared. Yep,
worst case you can always sing it with the Sisu.
That's true, that's a very good point. That Sisu is an 8 cost character, so that would work fine. We're going to play the Vitalosphere. We're drawing courtesy of Maurice's Workshop. Lots.
Now there's a dime. Now the lucky dime Baker could add 3 lore this turn for Elie with that Sisu down on the board already. It is going to be Prepared though, and it is going to be a lucky dime as well. So I think Sisu singing the Be Prepared and then the lucky dime.
I think this is a great play because this is check. He has a Tamatoa in hand.
Oh my goodness.
There is a Tamatoa in hand who will be questing for more than 10, but this, well, obviously won't be able to quest, but this lucky dime will take that 10 lore and immediately give Elie game. Look at Pierre's face, the smile there. I don't think he can believe what's happened. He shows him the Tamatoa and he takes game 1. Wow. Goodness me, the Maurice's Workshop and the Queen putting in the absolute business.
This was the most incredible comeback I have ever seen in a game of Disney Lorcana. Amber Steel Songs at 19 lore. Well, that's great. 19 doesn't matter. You have to get to 20.
Holding him off turn after turn, constantly had the answers. How much more Queen and Maurice's Workshop are we going to see after this event? I think a lot.
I think you could be right, Baker. Absolutely incredible. Every lore really does matter in the game of Disney Lorcana, because that one more lore, something like a goat, of course you can't play it in Amber Steel, but we did see in Fort Worth the Amber Steel Songs player playing Baloo, which is some guaranteed lore. We see things like Sleepy's Flute. Pierre's deck has done tremendously well to get to this point, but you can see why those cards are so useful in a matchup against Ruby Sapphire.
And it's kind of worth mentioning, he was at 19 lore. There was a turn where he had 4 characters on board and chose to quest with 3, but the Ballroom Sensation Cinderella took out the Scuttle. If that had been a quest, that could have changed everything, because that Scuttle, it wasn't, I don't think it was changing the game too much.
That's a really good point.
So maybe a mistake there on the quest. Obviously, you know, you play to the best of your ability at the time. You don't know how the cards are going to fall, but yeah, worth bearing in mind, just to add to your point you just made, every lore counts.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point. There was that decision from Pierre to challenge the Scuttle with the Cinderella. I think the Rapunzel then came through and added an extra card to Pierre's hand shortly there afterwards, but definitely was an opportunity to take that extra lore, and it really could have mattered, couldn't it, Baker?
Yeah, for sure. No guarantee, obviously, but certainly something to think about. Maybe, well, every lore counts, but we're going to be moving into game 2. Pierre will get to go first again.
Yeah, Pierre, being the loser of the previous game, is going to be able to go first in this one, which means, of course, if Pierre is victorious, it's going to mean that their opponent, Elie, will have an opportunity to go first in the 3rd and final game. So it's looking like an uphill battle for Amber Steel Songs, but if anyone can do it, it's going to be Pierre. They were so close in the last one. Can they just get that one extra lore necessary in game number 2 to take it to a game 3 in the finals? Remember, these players are playing not only for the pride and the credit of being the Disney Lorcana Challenge Bologna champion, but also a full set of enchanted cards and foil cards from Ursula's return. What a prize that is.
What a prize on top of everything they've already won. The Stout-Hearted Cinderella, the Rapunzel playmat, the Mickey BLT, the invitation to the European Championships, and now we are playing for the crown. Elie already throwing 3 cards down. He's interested in throwing a, well, that's probably what he's keeping, I dare say.
Yeah, the Fishbone Quill being held onto. Also looking at holding onto that Sisu, 3-cost uninkable, maybe to just try and negate some of the early questing power that Pierre is looking to pull off.
Sure. Yeah, especially if you combine it with Ice Block, you'd be able to pick off things like the Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain, but already can take out the Ursula Vanessa, the Cinderella Ballroom Sensation. This Daring Visitor Sisu is putting in so much work in this particular matchup.
Yeah, Elie could also hold on to the Ice Block here, which could be a nice turn 1 play to then set up that turn 3 Sisu.
Sure.
Sisu can banish characters with 1 strength or less, so if you play the Ice Block, exert the Ice Block, suddenly a 2-strength character like a Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain could be removed by that Sisu, and that is the card which Elie is really considering if they hold on to or not, and it looks like they decided to get rid of it. So really interesting, only 2 cards kept by Elie.
Little smile there from Elie to the crowd, and there does appear to be a big crowd out on the floor watching this on the screen. We can hear them, they're hyped, they're motivated. I hope this goes to game 3 just because I don't want it to end, but I'm sure if Elie has his way, he will take a 2-0.
Yeah, so Pierre will be going first. Of course, before they're able to play a character, they're going to have to ink something. It's going to be a Strength of a Raging Fire, and there is a Cinderella as a turn 1 play for Pierre. Can, of course, sing songs that cost 3 or less. Flaversham into the inkwell for Elie, and in comes the Ruby Shield of Virtue. It is called the Shield of Virtue, isn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Chapter 1 card, 1 cost inkable, and you can exert it and pay 3 to ready a chosen character. Really nice combination with that Queen. You could have multiple triggers of that effect to find items, and we saw in the last game this Queen hitting an item every single turn. So Lorcana fans, sleeve up your Queens, sleeve up your Maurice's Workshops. They're pretty good.
Well, Ross managed to pull one in the Disney Lorcana bottom stream, so he's going to be a very happy man.
He is.
The Queen pop off in a big way here. Now, Elie has a Gaston as an option for turn 2, which could be a nice way to just try and slow down any questing power from Pierre. We saw the way this one's going to play out. Ruby Sapphire, the longer the game goes on, the more dominant it's going to become. So Pierre's going to be really looking to get as much lore as possible in the early game here.
Yeah, I do think that's absolutely the game plan, exactly as you just said, Elie. We just saw once Elie starts to build up that big item count, get those Maurice's workshops onto the board, once he's got those ice blocks, he just has so many ways of controlling the board, especially in combination with brawls and things like that. We see the Pooh Pirate Captain Piglet coming down and the Cinderella Ballroom Sensation going to quest for 1. Every lore counts. We learned that in the last game.
We certainly did.
We see the Lucky Dime in Elie's hand, not something he really wants to see early, but better to have it than not. If it's discarded with a whole new world, it's not the end of the world. Obviously that Tamatoa could bring it back. We're considering inking. No. Obviously this is untimed, this is the finals. Players are free to take as much time as they want to think over these moves. The Flavisham's going to be inked, the Vitalosphere's played, and back over to Pierre. That slow start where Elie starts to build up those items on board.
Yeah, and Elie, of course, in the mulligan had the option of keeping that ice block. If there's an ice block down, then the Sisu could come through, remove the Piglet. It is going to be Smee, so some nice questing power. Piglet now questing for 3, with the fact that there are 3 characters on the board, and Cinderella quest for 1 for the 2nd time in this game, which puts Pierre up to 5 lore. They're a quarter of the way there. Elie with a bit of a slower start, I feel like, compared to the previous game, but there's the Sisu. It's going to banish the Cinderella, and Elie now kind of threatening that shift 6 legendary Sisu in a few turns time.
Yeah, for sure, but this Pooh Pirate Captain will most likely be able to quest for 3 again, as long as Pierre can get another character on board. He is holding a Lawrence that I've seen. He's got a Storm Rage on and a Along Came Zeus in the hand. Yeah, we're going to play that Lawrence, questing with Smee and Piglet for 5, and very similar to the last game, Pierre taking a very early lead, but we just learned the hard way, this game is not over.
No, certainly not. Gaston is in the hand for Elie, as well as the Queen as the inkable options. Ice Block, Sisu and Lucky Dime are uninkable, so it looks like it's going to be the Gaston into the Inkwell. That's going to be a decision between the Queen or the Sisu. It's going to be the Queen, and it's going to be given Rush by the Fortosphere here.
And +2.
+2 strength as well from the Vitalosphere, I beg your pardon.
Yep.
So it's now going to have Rush and 2 extra strength. And the Sisu, in fact, it was just the Sisu with that extra 2 strength taking out the Smee, wanting to preserve the Queen on the board, which makes a lot of sense. So the Rush wasn't useful, just the +2 extra strength.
Yeah, for sure, especially since Elie doesn't have a Fishbone Quill. That might be a nice hit off of the Queen, but you got to think he wants to find that Maurice's workshop so we can start to build a hand. We're seeing that Storm, is that Storm Rage on?
Storm Rage on.
Yeah, Storm Rage on in the hand.
In there as well.
Isn't enough to take out the Queen, who has a 3/3 stat line.
Yeah, so remember this Lawrence, 0 strength, but when it has no damage, it's going to get 4 strength. So right now, it is a 4 strength card. Storm Rage on is sung by Lawrence, 2 damage into the Queen. Can Pierre finish the job and remove the Queen from the board? But also, they want to try and develop another character down so this Piglet starts questing for 3 instead of the 1 it's currently questing for.
Yeah, Pierre at 10 lore. This time it could go differently. He could make that race to game. We are able to get the Robin Hood down, so Piglet does quest for that 3, bringing to Pierre to 13, and another Pooh Pirate Captain coming onto the board. So that's 6, 7, that's 8 lore on board. So Elie does need to answer this. Of course, the Queen will be able to take out one of the Pooh Pirate Captains, but still, that's a lot of pressure that the Pierre's starting to build up. We did find the Maurice's workshop, I believe, off of that top.
Yep, there's also an ice block available for Elie with that Sisu around in the mix as well. So could be using the ice block to lower the power of the Piglet, for example, and keep the Queen on the board. Instead, could use it to lower the power of this other Piglet, and then the Sisu comes through, removing it from the board. So Elie's managed to remove 2 of the questing threats from Pierre, but still able to quest for 3, getting to 16 this turn. Which is getting pretty close, Baker, to that magical 20 mark.
You're right, absolutely within touching distance. We're going to see that Ballroom Sensation Cinderella be inked. The Long Came Zeus is going to get rid of the Sisu. Pierre respecting the ability to shift into the Floodborn. If that happened, that would be devastating. The Flavisham is going to come down. I do believe that was off the top, because I did see the Workshop and the Lucky Dime in his hand previously. So very nice. And which item does he want to remove? Obviously, it's the choice between the shield and the ice block. It is going to be the ice block, finding us Porpsicle and Maui. Maui really nice, is going to help to control the board a little bit more. And of course, Porpsicle thinning our deck and more items on board for Flavisham. Yum, 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 yum.
And Elie's going to ink the Porpsicle. Could have inked the Maui and played the Porpsicle, but of course that Maui is going to give them that little bit of board control that they so desperately needed this time. Big moment off the top for Pierre. They've got a whole new world in hand and something else which I didn't quite catch. It's a quest. It's a double whole new world right now. That is not what you're looking for if your name is Pierre. They could go for the whole new world if they have enough ink, but I'm not even convinced they've got 5 ink yet. They're at 19 again. Surely not. And Pierre is going to go for the whole new world, I believe. No. Elie seems to have called the game right there. Pierre does take it. Pierre has made it 1 game apiece.
Wow. What a game. It went very similar to our first game, with Pierre taking a really huge lead, but Elie was able to still take game 1. But game 2, Pierre, he was able to finish it.
Pierre has taken it, and we're going into game number 3, and it's all gonna come down to this. Remember, Pierre, having lost that game, won that game, will be going second in the 3rd and final game. Pierre's been able to go first in both games so far in this best of 3, but they're now going to have the biggest uphill battle of them all, because they're going to be going second against Ruby Sapphire, and Elie is going to be really looking to ramp up as quickly as possible as the Sapphire player. Yeah,
and definitely wants to get that queen down early to try and start building up those free items. She seems to hit all the time, so I'm not expecting anything to change. But if you're just joining us, first of all, you've missed a lot, but don't go anywhere, because this is the 3rd game of the final match of Disney Lorcana Challenge Bolonia. We have Pierre versus Elie. Pierre running the Steel Song deck, no Sleepy's Flutes, instead opting for the Golden Harps, and Elie playing Ruby Sapphire with Maurice's Workshop, which he calls the best draw engine in the game.
Amazing.
And if you watch game 1, it's hard to argue with him, and the Queen, which he just calls the best Sapphire card in the game, full stop.
Okay, Elie has got no ramp in the opening hand here. Of course, we're now looking at the Amber Steel Songs hand. They're going to be mainly just looking for a nice curve, maybe try and shift in the Robin Hood and get a whole new world through, possibly. Elie's going to be really looking to try and find some ramp options, that Mickey Mouse or the Fishbone Quill, the main ways. Now, I don't think Pierre's playing the Queen, so often what you might be able to do is the Amber Steel Songs player going second is play the Queen on 1, shift the Queen on 2, sing a whole new world, and discard that Fishbone Quill. That's not an option.
No.
But what could be is Pierre playing Bare Necessities on 2 and trying to discard a Fishbone Quill from Elie to disrupt the ramp.
Yeah, that'd be a really nice play, but we've seen before, if Elie starts to get these Maurice's Workshops on the board, it can just get carried away. But here we go, our players have finished their mulligan, the final shuffle. This is the final match of this DLC Bolonia, a cut from both players, and here we go. Elie will be going first. We're going to be inking that So Shiny Tamatoa, and I expect the Porpsicle is going to come down, drawing a card for Elie and passing over. There she is, Joe.
Queen into the hand. That's a nice foil Queen as well, so really nice. And no turn 1 from Pierre, which is not ideal. They did ink a card, but didn't play anything down onto the board.
No, they inked the Cinderella Stout-Hearted, but nothing to follow up with. Not the best start. Double Sisu in Elie's hand, isn't...
Scuttle has missed.
Oh, that was off Scuttle. I thought that was his hand.
You don't see that too often in Elie's deck. Scuttle missing. It does happen sometimes in a similar way to the aerial. Bare Necessities, Bare Necessities played, hoping to find that Fishbone Quill, but Elie doesn't have it right now, but could find it by exerting the Queen in a couple of turns' time. Now, the Teeth and Ambitions or the Porpsicles are options to discard. Which do you expect Pierre's going to go for here?
I think there is a bit of an argument for the Teeth and Ambitions, as he does take that choice, because Pierre is running a lot of characters with two strength or less, such as the Pooh Pirate Captain, Cinderella Ballroom Sensation. So I think Pierre, that's where I'd have gone personally. Just a bit more of a guarantee that your characters are going to stick, but not a good start from Pierre, who hasn't been at, obviously, the bare necessities on 2, but you would much rather be singing it with a Ballroom Sensation Cinderella. The Queen makes her way onto Elie's field, so next turn we will get to see the top 4 cards of the deck and see if we find an item to cheat into play.
Yeah, so many uninkables in the hand for Pierre, which is why they had to do it. But here's the Queen, top 4 cards, an item that costs 4 or less can be played for free exerted. It's the Vitalosphere, not exactly the Fishbone Quill or the Maurice's Workshop they would have been hoping for, but certainly not bad, as the Porpsicle enters the building, Scuttle enters the Inkwell, and another Queen enters the board.
And you've got to think, Joe, missed on that first Scuttle, but with every miss and you put those cards to the bottom, you increase your chances that you are going to hit with these other Queen exerts or potential other Scuttles. So the first miss may have been quite hard, but I think that's increased his odds of getting better hits throughout the rest of the game.
The good news for Pierre is they found an inkable card in the form of Cinderella.
Excellent.
3 copies of Let the Storm Rage On, 1 copy of Grab Your Swords, and a Lawrence in there as well. Elie currently at 2 lore. Pierre hasn't got a lore on the board yet, and they're going to need to start getting lore as quickly as possible. Lawrence could remove the Queen here that's exerted.
But of course, there is another one waiting to follow up. We're going to be singing Let the Storm Rage On with Lawrence, putting 2 damage counters on the Queen. Okay,
Baker, this is big. So there's another Storm Rage On coming from Pierre onto the Queen, and they have the opportunity to maybe Zeus this Queen in the future. Of course, they had to pay 3 for the second copy of Let the Storm Rage On. But if they can start removing these Queens and disrupting the card draw engine for Elie, Pierre could claw their way back into this one. There's still no ramp available for Elie.
But a much slower start from Pierre. I think that was a heartbreaking start, to be honest. No turn 1, turn 2, played the bare necessities, which is not awful, but if that Cinderella had been down a bit sooner, we'd have been able to sing Storm Rage On, draw more cards. So Pierre definitely coming back from behind this time, but he's made it all the way to second to the finals. I'm sure he can pull it out.
Now, really interesting here from Elie. We saw the Queen get exerted, but if I'm not mistaken, it actually quested or challenged into Lawrence. So the Scuttle damaged Lawrence down, which then reduced its strength by 4, and then the Queen challenged the Lawrence to remove it. Now, the reason for that is, as much as Elie loves the Queen drawing them cards, their job here is just keep Pierre as far away from 20 lore as possible. They know the longer this game goes on with their lucky dime, they're going to win. As long as they stop Pierre getting to 20, Elie will get the board into a position where they can win the game. So that's why they just decide to make what might look like a bit of a weird decision to remove the Lawrence, as Grab Your Swords removes the Queen.
Yep, just wants to draw the game out to those later stages where Ruby Sapphire really starts to take over after we've developed those Maurice's Workshops and we can get lucky dimes down. So, yeah, Elie, the longer the game goes on, Elie does seem favoured. He is holding a Be Prepared for if Pierre is able to mount a bit of a board. We're going to play another Lawrence.
Yeah, in comes Lawrence, and Cinderella is going to get 1 lore on the board for Pierre. 19 more needed, though, for that victory.
There's a Scuttle.
Yeah, Scuttle, a nice option. Just going to be a 2-cost character for Elie to play down, but it also could simply go into the Inkwell if Elie wants to develop the lucky dime this turn. Now, I think the Scuttle is going to be the option for Elie if they're confident they hit an item, but if you miss an item, it could be a disaster. And maybe that's why Elie's decided to just play it safe and develop the lucky dime.
Yeah, no, I respect it. I think that there's an argument that you could have gone with the Scuttle, try and find that Maurice's Workshop so that you can start to build your resources, but playing it safe, I completely respect. The dime is now on the board. We really need a Workshop, though, so that Elie's top-decked items just turn into card draw.
The thing is, if Elie goes for the Scuttle and misses, they are spending their whole turn on playing a 1/3 character, which quests for 1. That would have been a nightmare.
Yeah, and wouldn't have inked in the turn, which is not what you want. So, no, I totally respect it. We are seeing that Golden Harp coming down for a cost of 1, so I assume we have a song. We do. Strength for a Raging Fire. Doing 3 damage to his own Golden Harp. Absolutely stellar. are, because of course if you don't play a song by the end of the turn, Golden Harp is banished. So that allows it to stay on the field and it will be able to quest for 2 next turn.
You wanted the Maurice's Workshop, well there it is now. Elie just looking for any sort of item, and they're going to be able to utilizing the card draw potential of Maurice's Workshop. It's a 3-cost uninkable item, and whenever you play another item you can pay 1 ink to draw another card, and you can use that multiple times per turn. Elie also sat on a Be Prepared, kind of just waiting for Pierre to develop the board a little bit further and walk into a huge Be Prepared, which I'm sure you're getting ready for, Baker.
Oh, obviously, you know me too well.
So big quests come through, Cinderella, Lawrence and the Golden Harp. So Pierre's getting up there at 9, but the Golden Harp is going to banish itself at the end of the turn as Pierre did not play any songs. And it's another Maurice's Workshop.
Oh, no, he didn't play it. He didn't do it.
Didn't?
No,
oh my goodness.
He didn't do it. I nearly got carried away there. Joe even set me up. He was like, "This is your moment, Baker," but it didn't even happen. Don't worry, we're getting there.
I think Elie might have shown Pierre that it was in the hand as well. Decided to go for the Maurice's Workshop instead.
Yep. No,
develop a bit more card draw.
I respect it. These Maurice's Workshop are what
and now the whole new world is going to discard the Be Prepared. But the big problem is, Baker, Ruby Sapphire has a lot of very powerful cards, and it suddenly got 7 in hand. Soon to be 8 when Elie draws for turn.
Yeah, Pierre still is in the lead concerning lore, so that is a good thing. But the same has been true of, the same was true of game 1, and was still able to have it robbed of him by Elie. We're going to be inking the Ursula Vanessa.
This is a big quest coming through from Pierre. The Golden Harp is sticking on the board, but look at the left side card in Elie's hand.
And we see it. Be prepared.
That's the moment you've been waiting for. The Be Prepared clears the board and all the characters are banished, but the items remain on Elie's side of the board. And with that lucky dime, they can go from 2 lore to 20 in record time, especially with a Tamatoa and an abundance of items.
Yeah, how many items do we have? 2 Maurice's Workshop, 1 Ice Block, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got 6. Oh, and the Vitalisphere, I missed that, so 7. So this Tamatoa along with Lucky Dime could put a 2-turn clock onto the game if he's able to develop it.
Yeah, 7 lore away. Robin Hood Enchanted, Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain. That is potentially questing for 5 next turn if Pierre can get down a 3rd character for the Piglet, which would put them at 18 lore. So Elie is really going to be looking to remove as many cards from the board as possible. They have a Let It Go, they have a Brawl. Let It Go onto Robin Hood is decided.
Yeah, Robin Hood running through the inkwell, courtesy of that Robin Hood. Now comes the Brawl to clear the Pooh Pirate Captain as well. So Elie finding a lot of answers off of that whole new world, but Pierre still has a hand. We see a couple of copies of Rapunzel, 1 Strength of a Raging Fire. Is that a Lawrence as well? Yep. 2.
Double Rapunzel enters the board. 8 ink spent. These Rapunzels questing for 2. If Pierre can quest with them both, they're going to be at 17 and within touching distance. Elie though, Tamatoa time.
Here is
Tamatoa with the Lucky Dime is getting an insane amount of lore. Ice Block for a little bit more. Every item on the board gives Tamatoa 1 more lore pip, and that Lucky Dime plus Tamatoa could end things very quickly indeed. But the Rapunzels remain on the board. This game could be over in just a matter of moments. It is neck and neck.
This is check. There are 8 types of 1 to 3, 4, 5. Yep, 8 on the board. Tamatoa will be questing for 9, and then the Lucky Dime would pop him up the other 9 to 18, and that would be exactly 20. This is check. Pierre needs to answer either this Dime or this Tamatoa.
Well, Sing Zeus.
That's a start.
Rapunzel.
That's a start. Can you do another 3 damage to this Tamatoa? You have to remove it. He does. Oh no, it's not quite enough.
Raging Fire, and then play a whole new world. So there's still 3 ink left for Pierre, and they're looking for something to damage this Tamatoa.
Yeah, we need a strength.
Pierre knows that Tamatoa has to go right now.
He's got nothing.
I can't see.
He's not found anything. He's found nothing, and he can play the aerial, but then there's no ink left to play the song.
Tamatoa plus the dime is going to get Elie from 2 to 20 in a single moment.
Yep.
Pierre just making sure there's nothing they can do. They've got 3 ink left.
Yep.
They could play the aerial to try and find a song, but there's going to be no ink left to do it. That's what they go for, aerial. I don't think there's any one-cost songs. The Storm Matron is there, but there's no ink. There's no singers available.
Pass is over. And that's game.
Law.
And that is game. Elie is your Disney Lorcana Challenge Bolonia champion.
What a final, Baker. Absolutely incredible games from both players. Ruby Sapphire Items is your Disney Lorcana Challenge Bolonia champion. It was supposed to be the tournament all about